Okay, let's get into it. Today, we're looking at some really fascinating new science that kind of flips the script on some of the most common health advice out there, especially when it comes to prediabetes. I mean, what if you could actually reverse the condition and slash your diabetes risk without losing a single pound? Sounds kind of wild, right?
You know that feeling, right? You're staring down at the bathroom scale, just totally frustrated because that number will not budge no matter what you do. But what if it isn't really the whole story? Well, it turns out a pretty groundbreaking study is suggesting that there's a whole new way to think about reversing prediabetes, and it has almost nothing to do with the number on the scale. Instead, it's all about what's happening inside your body. So first, let's just set the stage here. Because the scale of this problem, it's absolutely massive. Prediabetes isn't some rare thing. It is incredibly common.
Yeah, you're seeing that right. More than 1 out of every 3 adults in the US has prediabetes. Just think about that. That is a staggering number of people standing at a really critical crossroads for their health.
So what is it exactly? Well, think of prediabetes as a warning sign. Your blood sugar is higher than it should be, but it's not quite in the full-blown diabetes range yet. And the risk isn't just about developing type 2 diabetes later on. It's also tied to a much higher risk for things like heart disease and kidney disease.
For decades, the advice from doctors, from all the clinical guidelines, has been really clear and pretty much singular. Lose weight. It's always been seen as the #1 way to stop prediabetes in its tracks. But what if that's only part of the story?
And this is where the new research comes in and just completely shakes things up. A recent study published in the journal Nature Medicine decided to look at this whole problem from a totally different angle. What they did was they specifically looked at a group of 234 people with prediabetics who, get this, after a full year of lifestyle changes, didn't actually lose weight. A few of them even gained a little. Now, by all the old metrics, you'd probably write this group off as, well, unsuccessful. But here's where it gets interesting. Inside that group, something pretty remarkable happened. They split into 2 very different camps. You had 51 people who managed to get their blood sugar all the way back to normal. They achieved remission. And then you had 183 who didn't. And remember, neither of these groups lost any weight.
Now hold on, because this is the most incredible part. The researchers followed both of these groups for 5 years. And that remission group, the ones who didn't lose weight but fixed their blood sugar, they had a 70% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. 70%. That is a huge game-changing discovery.
So you gotta be asking, right? If it wasn't weight loss, then what on earth was their secret? Well, the answer isn't in how much fat they had. It's all about where their bodies were storing it.
Okay, let's break down the 2 main types of fat. First, you've got visceral fat. This is the really bad stuff. It's the fat that's stored deep inside your belly, wrapped around your vital organs like your liver and intestines. The problem is, it's metabolically active, and it's pumping out these inflammatory molecules that just wreak havoc on how your body uses insulin.
But then, on the other hand, you've got subcutaneous fat. This is the stuff that sits right under your skin. It's considered much healthier. In fact, it can actually be helpful because it releases a hormone called adiponectin, which has anti-inflammatory properties and actually helps your body become more sensitive to insulin.
So you can kind of think of it like this. That dangerous visceral fat is actively hurting your insulin sensitivity, while the healthier subcutaneous fat is helping it. It's this metabolic tug of war. And it looks like this balance, not the number on the scale, is the real key to managing your diabetes risk.
And here it is, the crucial piece of the puzzle. Look at what happened to the fat in these 2 groups. The no remission group, they actually saw an increase in that dangerous visceral fat over time. But the remission group, the successful ones, their visceral fat didn't change, but their amount of that healthier subcutaneous fat increased. They were basically shifting their fat storage to a much safer place.
Okay, so this brings us to the most important part, right? What do you actually do with all this information? Well, it means we can shift our focus from just chasing a number on the scale to actively working on achieving what's called glycemic control.
So what were these magical lifestyle changes? Well, it's the stuff we know really works to fight that dangerous visceral fat. We're talking about 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise, like a brisk walk or a swim, adding in some resistance training a couple times a week. Diet-wise, it's about adopting something like a Mediterranean or DASH-style diet, focusing on fiber, healthy fats, and lean protein. And just as importantly, cutting way back on sugars and processed foods. and really prioritizing good sleep and managing your stress. It's about building healthy habits, not just hitting a number.
And you know, one of the study's lead authors, Dr. Andreas Birkenfeld, he really said it best. He said, "Don't focus on the scale alone. Aim to normalize glucose. Achieving remission matters more for diabetes prevention than hitting a specific weight loss number." So maybe it really is time to rethink our relationship with the bathroom scale. What this research suggests is that true metabolic health is something you feel, it's something you can measure in your blood work and see in your energy levels, not just in your weight. It really leaves us with a powerful question to think about. What if the best measure of our health isn't a number we can see at all, but a balance we create inside?